Hi guys, this is Zach from Watches on You, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Omega Olympic Official Timekeeper Limited Edition. So these watches were released in order to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Omega timekeeping at the Olympics, but I don't really understand why they released them now, as they say that won't actually happen until 2032, so they're kind of celebrating this over 10 years in advance, so I'm not really sure why they release these watches now as to opposed when the anniversary actually takes place. But these are the watches that they have made to commemorate that anniversary so far, and now let's take a look at these watches. So these watches are available in a variety of color. You can get them in green, black, blue, red, and a kind of yellow-orange. And so you can have many different color varieties for these pieces, which I kind of like. It allows the buyer a little bit more customization in how they like their piece. But you can also get a set of these watches where it has all the colors and the dials are a little bit different. Of that, they only made 100 sets of these watches, and they have basically a fully white dial instead of a black dial in the center. So now, these watches though, I'll grab this red one here just to show you guys. So these watches were designed after the stopwatches that Omega used at the Montreal Olympics. And if you go and look at that pocket watch, it does look pretty similar on the dial front, even though that was, of course, a pocket watch styled stopwatch and not an actual wristwatch. But now let's go over the case. So the case is a 39.5 millimeter stainless steel. You can see it is quite thin. I like to see that, definitely. And overall, it has a very, very classic look. It's got the typical Omega polish flowing from lug to lug, which I really enjoy myself. And then you can see it has polished sides. I think that this is actually one of the most well-done cases. I really like the feeling of this case overall, and I think they did a very good job. Now, on this side, though, you can see that this is a numbered limited edition, so you can see that this is number 362 of 2,032 pieces. Now, a 2,032 piece limited edition isn't that limited in my mind, being that it's over 1,000 pieces. I think that a true limited edition should be at least 500 or less pieces being made, so this kind of shoots over that. That's kind of my threshold of limited, but it still is limited to a certain number of pieces. So now let's discuss the dial. So as I said, they designed it after the pocket stopwatches used at the Montreal Olympics, and you can see similarities from there. But just going over this watch itself, this is the red dial. Now you can see that it has just a classic black dial, very, very nice Arabic and numerals for the indexes. I like that, very crisp, easy to read. And then you can see the Omega logo is just printed on the dial. And you have a red Seamaster logo. After all, this has a almost Seamaster-like case, or vintage Seamaster-like case. Now, the thing about this dial is this is the red option, so you can also get this in a kind of orangish yellow option. It shows up a little bit more yellow on the camera than it is in real life. It's kind of in between the two, I would say, almost kind of a goldish. And then you have this nice blue. I really like the blue, I'd say. The black, I think the black is a little bit boring for these pieces, because these are kind of made to be a little bit more colorful, kind of fun pieces, and I like the colors. I think the red looks very nice. I think the straps might overdo it a tad on these watches. I'd probably want to replace this, put on like a brown leather strap or something like that, maybe tone it down that way, but I think the straps are a bit much. So the orange is also quite good. I really like all these colors. I'd say the red, I think, looks very good to me, and the blue does. Those are probably my two favorites out of the collection, but this one does look good as well. So going back to the dial, Omega had put a date wheel down at 6 o'clock, and I like the position of 6 o'clock. I think it's great, keeps the dial symmetrical, and it also blends in with the indexes fairly nice. Now, one thing, though, about the date wheels, I wish they did a black background with white font, as I think it would have just blended into the dial quite a bit more, and it looks pretty obtrusive in the way that it is implemented here. Now, another thing that Omega says that these watches have are a pulse reader on the dial. Now, I invite you to kind of tell me where that is. I cannot see it. They did not say pulsometer, which is very easy to see on a dial, because it's almost like a tachymeter, except it will allow you to calculate the amount of your heart rate per minute. And they say this has a pulse reader that allows you to calculate that as well, but I have no clue where it is. I'm assuming that it is something to do with this red line having an opening there, there, and there, going around in thirds. I'm guessing that's maybe what they're hinting at here, because I don't see anywhere else where it would have that. Also, one thing to take note of that this dial, and actually you don't really notice it at first until, but you can actually see that the minute track is kind of right on the black dial, and then it's off, and it's on, and then it's off, and it just kind of, you don't honestly really notice it, but when you do notice it, you think it looks honestly a bit weird in my mind. I just don't like how this doesn't match at top and it's not symmetrical that way. That's just kind of, I like symmetrical dials, so I wish they could have just kept it the same, but honestly I don't think you notice it most of the time. So now talking about, I already showed you guys these dials. Just show you, do some little more close-up shot of what these look like. So there's the orange, yellow kind of. It looks more yellow on camera, I'd say, than it is in real life. It's a bit, probably half. It's like about in between the two. And then you have this blue right here. Very nice, kind of bright blue. I really actually do like the blue. I think that looks very nice. And of course, all these colors are made, these specific colors were chosen because they are the colors of the Olympic rings. So now let's do a wrist shot of these pieces. I'll just take my glove off here. So here is the watch on the wrist. And the 39.5 millimeter size I think is perfect. I really love 40 millimeter watches. That's my favorite size for a wristwatch, except for a dress watch. I like that a little bit smaller, probably around 38. So the 39.5 I think is absolutely perfect. Looks great. The thickness is absolutely fantastic. I think the case looks nice. One thing that kind of, I'm not really sure if I like or not, is having the limited number on the side of the case. I think that puts it a little bit too out in the open for me. I'd rather have that on the case back, like most watches. But overall, the fit and finish on the wrist is very, very nice, and the strap is very high quality as well, genuine leather. So now going back to the case back, you can see that you have a transparent sapphire case back, and you can see the Omega Master coaxial movement 8800. So this movement will have a magnetic resistance up to 15,000 Gauss, which is really more than you'd ever encounter in everyday life, and that's one thing I really like that. They're just kind of making it so, hey, don't have to worry about magnetism anymore. Great job, Omega, on that. And it also has been just a very, very well done movement. The finishing, as you can see, is absolutely fantastic. Great movement in this piece. So, and then now you can see this ring where it says Official Timekeeper at the bottom, and they actually list all of the Olympics around this movement. So you can see there, starting at Los Angeles 1932 and eventually going all the way up to Los Angeles 2028. So again, it's a little bit weird that they released this watch this early, being that they're not hitting their 100th anniversary till 2032, but it is still a nice watch at that. So now let's move on to pricing. So the price on this watch is going to come in at a price of $5,400, and yes, that is a pretty large price. It's around the same price as the Omega Aquaterra, and I would honestly have kind of a hard time choosing between the two. One thing to consider is this watch does only have a 60-meter water resistance, so if you're going to be around water a lot, that is definitely something to consider when the Aquaterra has quite a bit more than that. I'm not really sure why they didn't at least put 100 in this watch. The 60 seems way, way too little, but that's what you get. So for a $5,400 price tag, you do get a great movement, and I think the case is done very well. You also do get a limited edition, even though it is a limited edition of 2,000 pieces, which in my mind is not very limited. But the quality of this piece is great, and I think that that price is fairly good. I'd like to see it maybe a little cheaper than that, but I think that you could justify the $5,400 price tag. So right away, before we end this video, I'd like to mention that JB Hudson provided the watch in this video for the purpose of this review, and also let you guys know that we'll be leaving links in the description if you'd like to learn more about this piece, inquire about purchasing it, or if you'd like to actually check out our channel store where we have our favorite straps, strap tools, and just some other cheap kind of low entry-level watches that we like. So thank you guys for watching this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.